Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Jedi In Exile. We are getting straight back into the Who Would Win segment that we've been doing recently. So if you've missed the previous video, which was Mace Windu against Anakin Skywalker, you can catch that on our channel, so make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of the segment that we're doing. So tonight's episode, we're doing a little bit of a crossover in era, so I say 1,000 years between the two, but actually there's probably only about 100 years for when the second one's born. Yeah. So we're doing Darth Bane, Dark Lord of the Sith, creator of the Rule of Two, against Grand Master of the Jedi Order, Master Yoda. So yeah, opening statement then, Matt. Talk to me. Bane on Yoda.
I'm gonna go. I mean, that's a bit of a weird way to phrase it, but hey, I'm gonna go bold and say, okay. I'm going to firmly put it out there that I'm in the Bane camp. I think there is a very good argument for Yoda giving him a good fight.
And we're talking, obviously, just to clarify, we're talking about them both in their prime. So Bane clearly is probably when he's got the obsidian... the creatures inside his skin.
Yeah,
he's got
scarabs,
this powerful shield armor. Yeah. He's a fully trained Sith Lord. He's got Zana as his apprentice. In terms of Yoda, it's hard to know when his prime was. Are we talking he could be like 400-500 years old?
So, I would argue that he must be somewhere around his prime, not far off the prequel era.
Yeah, right. You could argue, I say, like maybe 100-200 years before the prequel, or probably High Republic era.
Maybe slightly later. But hey, we'll leave that up to the comment section because we're probably wrong. But I mean, let's break it down, right? So, what do we know about Darth Bane? So, intelligence-wise, top tier, managed to completely fool and trap to be able to wipe out pretty much the entire Sith and Jedi orders during the height of was it the Force Wars? Is that what they called it? The Jedi versus Sith War?
Yeah, so it was 100 Jedi, wasn't it? Including, I think, the current Grand Master of the Jedi Order at the time, and certainly the head of the Jedi Army. So we're talking about the Darth Bane books here, which of course are now non-canon, but that's really the media that we've got, our information on Bane itself. So we know he studied a lot of the old Sith holocrons. He's devoted basically his whole life to studying for when he joined the Sith Order. So he's a collector of the old relics. Goes in search of old Sith temples. We know how powerful he is, and it's hinted at the end of the book that, and this is something that's touched on later in the sequels with Palpatine.
Passes his essence into
his life essence into the next living thing.
Yeah.
So we don't know at the end of those books whether he actually does defeat Zana by taking over Zana's body. So we're talking about this could be the most powerful Force user of all time.
Yeah.
So there's a really strong argument for Bane here. The whole Force Lightning gambit, and this is a discussion we were having just before the video started. It's this argument of Bane on Yoda takes on the question of which do you think is more powerful? Is it the dark side? Is it the light side?
And I think this is kind of the whole thing of if you think if you're one of the believers that the dark side is more powerful, as all of the Sith proclaim, then I think Bane wins hands down, and probably in this entire series, anybody that we put up against him, he wins, because he is arguably the strongest Sith Lord to ever exist.
Yeah,
and therefore, if he then is dark side versus light side, by default more powerful.
Yeah, see, I am of the opinion that the dark side is more powerful because, like I said to you off camera, I feel like the Jedi have to temper their strength and they can't go past a certain mark, can they? Because then they start going into areas of the dark side. Anakin certainly feels more powerful when he turns to the dark side because you're almost like unleashing the anger and the power. There's less control because clearly you're using your emotions. But I think if the only Jedi that could potentially defeat Bane, I think, is Yoda, simply because he's got the power to absorb Force lightning. We saw that when he faced Dooku in Attack of the Clones. We saw it against Palpatine, and Palpatine was like unleashing unlimited power on Yoda's ass. So, and we saw him like absorb it all. So there's potentially, he nullifies maybe Bane's threat there. We could talk about how speedy Yoda is. Even at 900 years old fighting Dooku and Palpatine, he's spinning all over the show. And that must be difficult to face. You know, him just jumping around and blurring everything.
And this is my point, right? I do strongly believe that Bane wins the fight, but I think that there is a strong argument that it's not
Yoda might outwit him.
I don't know. See, this goes back to my argument of Bane did so much kind of study of the Force, the old ways, the relics, like all of that stuff. He has all of that knowledge. So I think that when it comes down to knowledge of the Force, he's not going to outwit him. Maybe in some other way there's an argument for some form of manipulation, goading, whatever, to kind of make him lose control a little bit more. But I think when you break it down into kind of the key aspects, his Force knowledge is probably unrivaled. Yoda's will be up there, but I think that...
But because he doesn't know the dark side, that again comes down to the argument. It's like what Palpatine says to Anakin, to know one subject, you have to study all its different areas. Yep. Palpatine's kind of right in that, to become a master and an expert, you do have to know like both sides of the coin. So I think Bane probably does, even though Yoda's got more years on Bane probably does maybe have more knowledge because of the dark side knowledge.
And then I think that if you break it down into lightsaber combat, so we don't actually get to see much of Bane from like an actual lightsaber on lightsaber combat against people that are potentially his peers in regards to combat. But the one thing that I would say is the kind of weird scarab armor stuff that he's got makes him almost impossible to kill.
Yeah, it becomes a curse to him at the end, doesn't it? Because they are slowly killing
poisoning him,
and he has to get them removed, doesn't he?
But at the time that he has them,
they do absolutely. They do make him. It's a like a complete full body shield. So because doesn't he try Force lightning? Some of them out as well.
He tries a bunch of stuff, doesn't he? And it's like their lightsabers can't penetrate them. Like there's so much. So I think that even if Yoda kind of gets the better of him in lightsaber on lightsaber combat, there's just nothing he can do. He's not going to be able to do anything.
The only place, the weak spots, I suppose, is going to be like his mouth, his eyes, his nose.
Which I think he's more than enough of a skilled kind of duelist to be able to protect a tiny part of him.
He's an ex-miner, so he's strong as hell.
Yeah, I don't see, like, don't get me wrong, Yoda's Grandmaster of the Jedi. We know that he's ridiculously good with a lightsaber. We know that his knowledge of the Force is great, but I just don't see how it stacks up in any way, shape, or form to be able to actually defeat Bane.
Yeah, like I say, I think Yoda's the only one realistically who would have a chance against Bane. But I suppose when you think about it, that scarab armor just basically does make him.
It tips the scales to the point of impossible.
Because if he didn't have that, I do feel like Yoda would have a really, really good chance, just because of how obviously quick and agile he is. But yeah, I'm really, really not sure. Maybe if the fight was on Mustafar, Yoda could like outwit him.
Yeah, maybe, but then do we know whether the scarabs are going to protect him from...
Well, I assume they wouldn't protect him from lava, but I don't know.
So I think this is part of it, right? I think ultimately, I think he's just the only reason that he lost to Zana, if you wanna like put it in those words, is because he had the armor removed. So I think if we're taking him at the height, there is no argument that will ever sway me that he's losing that fight.
Well, if he did lose that, he kind of lost it himself because he detached himself from his body, didn't he?
Yeah.
And she maybe was powerful enough to push his life essence, keep it out of her. So potentially he almost like committed suicide in the hopes of being able to live on. Because he realised he was losing the fight, so he thought, well, one last gamble, I'll just come out of my physical form and attach to Zana, and obviously she maybe pushed him off.
It'd be really interesting to know the definitive, because I think that also has a massive...
It ended with like Zana looking at her hand and flexing, and so it leaves like so much... That massive question mark.
It's just crazy. And maybe we'll have this fleshed out in Disney canon. Obviously, we've seen Bane kind of semi reintroduced during the Clone Wars, very briefly. So we know he exists.
Yoda, didn't we?
We know he exists, but that's pretty much all we know. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that.
Absolutely.
I think we're gonna have to chalk it down to a complete and utter Bane stampede of victory.
Yeah.
To be completely honest with you. And guys, if you've been listening along and you don't know what we're talking about, we did cover some Bane stuff in our Rule of Two video. I will link that up above, and I'm sure that we will probably do a full Bane kind of video at some point, so let us know down in the comments if that is something you would be interested in. But for those of you that do know, let us know down in the comments below if we've missed massive parts of the argument that would make a huge difference to that. I don't think that we have, but more than happy to be proven wrong. So let us know. And whilst you're there, why not hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and the notification bell. Make sure you don't miss any of our content that is coming your way. And all that is left to say, guys, is we'll see you all real soon in the next one.
May the Force be with you guys.